Our friends in the media, y'all want to give me a thumbs up if you are ready? So first off, full disclaimer, I normally speak and I improv, but they do so much work. This task force and all of its participating membership and our staff have done so much in the last year that I am going to confine myself to a script, because if I don't, I will omit some important information for everyone here today. But my name is Alan Wilson. I'm the Attorney General for South Carolina, and I want to say thank you to all of you for joining me to mark the 13th year of the State Human Trafficking Task Force and the presentation of our annual report. I would like to show y'all a copy of the annual report. Every year, this report gets more sophisticated. This report provides more and more information, and it's the staff and it's the communities of people represented behind me here today that make this report possible. Full disclaimer, this is, I think, roughly 114 pages long, and we do have a 2-page executive summary, but for those of you who want to nerd out and really crawl into this issue and really dive deep into the statistics, then we can provide this to you. You can download this at our human trafficking website in a PDF, and for those of you who just want the movie trailer as opposed to the movie, you can download an executive summary of everything. I would like to begin, first off, by introducing the newly promoted director of the statewide Human Trafficking Task Force, Monique Garvin. If you have been active in our task force, you may have known Monique as our first deputy director of the task force, who worked basically hand in glove with Catherine Moorhead, who turned the chapter, was with us for many years, had other opportunities to return home closer to her family in the Northeast. But Monique has been right there in the trenches the entire time. And this year, I was proud to be able to promote her to director of the State Human Trafficking Task Force. Monique is an amazing person. She has an outstanding history of service to children and families in South Carolina, both in the community as the deputy director of the task force, but beyond that. She has a dual master's in social work and public administration from the University of South Carolina, go Cox, and I am proud to formally introduce her to you today as our new director. Along with Monique's promotion to director, we have been able to do a number of things this year. You're going to hear about these a little bit later. We've completed the first round of certification evaluations for state human trafficking service providers. We've hosted the annual Human Trafficking Carolinas Conference in partnership with North Carolina, and we've updated the laws on the books to include morphed images and criminalizing revenge porn, which actually do play a role in the war on human trafficking. We could not have done this without the support of the General Assembly. The recurring funding we received several years ago has allowed us to hire additional staff. It has allowed us to better coordinate with regional task forces in each of the major areas of the state. It's allowed us to pay for resources to hire an outside certification program coordinator, provide the best possible multi-state conference, and has allowed us to partner with ETV to continue to improve and expand our prevention education and outreach efforts in the classrooms around the state, as well as every community in the state. Human trafficking awareness in South Carolina is finally bringing this crime into daily conversations. Beforehand, it was something that you saw in Hollywood movies and something that people didn't think to talk about. But we have shoved it into daily conversations, and we are shedding light on how we all can work together to protect, prevent, prosecute both sex and labor trafficking in South Carolina. We are now able to take everything the task force has been doing and raise it to the next level. In 2025, we were able to compare South Carolina specific numbers from the same data collected last year as we looked at numbers from state and federal courts, SLED, DSS, and DJJ. And you will hear more about those numbers momentarily. Our state task force data and research analyst, and I'll recognize him later, but Chris Brunswick is taking the next steps to determine the needs of human trafficking to inform our direction by better understanding human trafficking around our state. You cannot adequately manage a problem until you adequately measure the problem, and that is why that is so important. It allows us to put lead on the target at hand. Labor and sex trafficking continue to present themselves in varying ways. The most consistent trend we saw in 2024 is the prevalence of minor victims. Given the complexities of human trafficking cases, the South Carolina Human Trafficking Task Force uses a multidisciplinary approach to most strategically utilize the knowledge and strengths of all of its members. The task force is currently composed of 11 mandated member agencies around in state government, 2 appointed non-governmental organizations, as well as several federal organizations like the Department of Labor, the United States Attorney's Office, as well as our other federal law enforcement agencies who elect to partner with us, and they are very active. We also have 12 subcommittees under our State Human Trafficking Task Force, as well as 11 regional task force that work in the regions of the state, but also in coordination with our state task force. The regional task forces are our boots on the ground in South Carolina's fight against human trafficking. In 2025, the Survivor Advisory Committee redesigned our mandated awareness posters. This new design was printed and distributed to the regional task forces around the state who made the effort to get them distributed in every community. Our regional task forces, in conjunction with our interfaith subcommittee, host and participate in a trunk or treat events in October to spread age and event appropriate awareness items and engage with our communities around South Carolina. I want to thank the sheriffs and the solicitors and other agencies for allowing their employees to commit time to the anti-human trafficking efforts in our state. Also, I think we have at least one solicitor here, David Stumbo. Thank you, Solicitor Stumbo. And I know others would be here, but they were otherwise engaged. But I do want to thank Solicitor David Stumbo for standing up here. The people standing with me today are representatives of these groups from around the state. Thank you to all the members of the task force for your hard work and perseverance in 2025. Victims and survivors are not defined by any specific characteristic and represent numerous cultural backgrounds. Therefore, the task force continues to promote the development and implementation of trauma-informed, culturally sensitive, and comprehensive victim-centered approaches to human trafficking. I would now like to invite the director of the task force, Monique Garvin, with a special presentation on behalf of the governor's office.
The governor's office could not be with us here today. However, they sent a proclamation to honor Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and it reads, "Whereas human trafficking is a crime against humanity that negatively impacts millions of lives worldwide, including throughout the United States and South Carolina, and whereas victims of human trafficking, including children, youth, and adults, face unimaginable hardships, including the loss of their dignity, freedom, and basic rights through commercial sexual exploitation, debt bondage, involuntary servitude, forced labor, and other forms of exploitation. And whereas the state of South Carolina is committed to advocating for the well-being of all its residents by protecting the vulnerable through prevention education and awareness, as well as continued efforts to support victims, investigate cases, and prosecute traffickers. And whereas South Carolina is committed to partnering with regional and national allies to strengthen our efforts toward the elimination of human trafficking and its traumatic impact on our communities. And whereas the statewide Human Trafficking Task Force works to support the efforts of South Carolina stakeholders, including regional task forces and community advocates, and guide the strategic approach to combat this crime. And whereas this year's observance of Human Trafficking Awareness Month affirms South Carolina's commitment to individual freedoms and the elimination of human trafficking in all its oppressive forms. Now, therefore, I, Henry Dargan McMaster, Governor of the great state of South Carolina, do hereby proclaim January as 2026 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month throughout the state and encourage all South Carolinians to recognize the vital role each person plays in the prevention of human trafficking, as well as the power of our collective efforts in ending this crime in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Monique, and thanks to the governor for their support and his office's support of this task force. The state task force received substantial funding from the General Assembly in 2022. Because of that funding, it provided us much needed staff, and in 2025, we were better able to realize the lack of appropriate housing and resources around the state for victims and survivors in South Carolina. Every community in South Carolina needs an expansion of both community and residential programming for victims and survivors. It is the legislatively mandated role of this task force to certify programs that do provide services for minor adult victims of human trafficking. So you just can't have fly-by-the-night of organizations throwing up a halfway house or an organization saying that they provide services. They must now be certified by this task force. A list of the certified programs must be made available to the public and the court so they can make appropriate recommendations to services aligned with best practices. In 2025, the state task force launched South Carolina's Safe House Certification Program in partnership with Safe House Project. This legislatively mandated initiative established a comprehensive, standard-driven approach to evaluating residential and non-residential anti-human trafficking organizations. South Carolina is the first state in the nation to require Safe House certification as part of its statewide service delivery framework. We're leading from the front, and it's because of everyone up here that's so. Every organization must have each program they run individually evaluated. The programs include both adult and minor residential and community services. I would like to recognize those organizations that successfully completed the evaluation this year. So first, I would like to have Monique is going to have the awards and certificates to give the representatives of each organization as I call them out. So if we call out your organization, I'd like you to come forward and Monique will present you with your certification. First, Doors to Freedom, Dorchester County, Minor Residential Program, Gold Certification Badge. Transitional Age Youth Program, Gold Certification Badge. Do we have? Let me go ahead and give you congratulations.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
We're proud of you. Jasmine Road, Greenville County, Adult Long-Term Program, Bronze Certification Badge. You're right there. Congratulations. Lighthouse for Life, Richland County, Community-Based Program, Gold Certification Badge. Congratulations. The Formation Project, Charleston County, they have a community-based program which was receiving a gold certification badge and a newly created transitional program which is emerging, and we just wanted to recognize them for that program. But they are a gold certification badge for the community-based program. Congratulations. Privilege. Brooke is my former law clerk. So I like to see my...
Everything I know.
Everything you know, right? Yeah, no, we know that's not true.
Twice, wherever she is.
Yes, yes. I'm so proud of seeing people who used to work in our office do great things for our state. So I would like to now transition to the Advocate of the Year Award. This is a really, really important award. Our next recognition is for someone who has used his voice in the state legislature to transform personal tragedy into dedicated advocacy. His legislative leadership in changing and updating state and federal laws protects victims from online exploitation and sextortion, both of which are increasingly linked to human trafficking here in South Carolina. At this time, I would ask Representative Brandon Guffey to join me at the podium, and I already had him here, but Brandon, step up. The task force recognizes all of the contributions you have made to consistently support the victims and survivors of this state by introducing and passing legislation to strengthen our laws and our rights for victims, specifically Gavin's Law. Your steadfast support is acknowledged today as we recognize you with the 2025 Advocate of the Year Award. This award is given at this press conference to unique individuals who contribute to the anti-human trafficking efforts in South Carolina. So because this is in a clear glass, I've gone to these now, I'm going to read what this says. The South Carolina Human Trafficking Task Force 2025 Advocate of the Year Award is presented to Representative Brandon Guffey for demonstrating profound commitment to human trafficking advocacy as a South Carolina representative through steadfast legislative impact. I want to present with great appreciation on behalf of our task force, all our adjacent membership, the people of South Carolina, thank you for what you do as a leader in South Carolina. We appreciate you, we love you, and this is just a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would. Don't want to.
Do you want to finish, or do you?
I'm just trying not to step on his tail, but go ahead.
And I won't take long. I did not have anything prepared, but I often say the only thing God blessed me with is a big mouth. And since I lost my son, all I can do is run it. But the people standing behind me, this task force, they're the ones doing the work. The only thing I can do is advocate. But the further that I've went down this, and as much as I remember the first year coming in office, I had a friend come in and say, hey, we've really got to address human trafficking. And I was like, no. I'm focusing on sextortion. It's not my fight. But as I started getting through, and it didn't matter how far I tried to avoid it, the two are linked. The sextortion linked with exploitation, the exploitation linked with human trafficking. And as we've gotten involved, we're even starting to see sextortion and human trafficking combined with girls being trafficked for videos on platforms just to raise money. So thank all of you, really, for your support. I'm honored to have this award. I never feel worthy, but I will continue running my big mouth until the day that I die, being an advocate. So thank you.
Brandon, are you in your third term or fourth?
Second term.
See, that's what I'm saying is he hasn't even been here that long, and it feels like he's been here forever. And so thank you. We want you to keep running your mouth. So thank you, because your words lead to action. We appreciate you. So congratulations to you, and thank you again. In 2023, we launched in partnership with South Carolina ETV Traffic Proof Traffic Proof SC, a series of free age-appropriate educational videos and curricula catered to middle and high school students. This initiative is moving into the next phase with a statewide human trafficking education prevention curriculum designed for community-based youth. The next phase will also include a video highlighting the importance of educating parents and other adults on the realities of human trafficking. This is what I've been talking about, shoving this conversation into the sunlight, shoving this conversation into daily conversations where it needs to be had. In 2025, this curriculum continued to be presented. Nearly 2,000 students in South Carolina and numerous facilitators were trained across the state. The response continues to be extremely positive from both groups. To find out more about this program, please visit the South Carolina Attorney General's website, or you can go to trafficproofsc.org, trafficproofsc.org. In 2025, the Human Trafficking Task Force launched several statewide initiatives and continued with our prior initiatives that allowed us to expand outreach and awareness on human trafficking. The state task force partnered with the North Carolina Human Trafficking Commission to host the 2025 Human Trafficking in the Carolinas Conference in Columbia, South Carolina. This two-day conference convened more than 300 attendees from South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia, I believe, were there, and featured international and nationally recognized experts, as well as local experts that we all know here. The state task force established a partnership with HEAL, H-E-A-L, trafficking to implement a unified, trauma-informed, and survivor-centered healthcare response to human trafficking as a goal established in the 2014 state plan. We continued statewide Hispanic outreach and awareness campaigns in providing human trafficking information about the national hotline in both English and Spanish. Additionally, the task force took to social media with the hashtag Wags for Awareness campaign to provide a fun way to show off beloved dogs while highlighting human trafficking awareness in conjunction with the release of an annual report in Human Trafficking Awareness Month. My own beloved German Shepherd was very happy to participate in that. I had the opportunity to announce the winner of the Best in Show. This recognition was awarded to Heather Pagan and her dogs, Remington and Winchester. Just a note, do not rob this house. I'm sure those aren't the only Wilmington and Winchesters in that house. We have an amazing team that makes these projects happen. Monique Garvin, as you know, serves as the director, and we will be recruiting her replacement to be the deputy director here in the very near future. Our human trafficking program coordinators, raise your hand when I call your name if you're standing behind me. James Massey, Cameron Singleton, and Veronica Smith. They support the regional efforts, task force subcommittees, and statewide initiatives. We also have, raise your hand please, Melanie Williams, who is our program coordinator for grants and certification. Mark Cardwell is our graphic designer. Ashley Bishop and Blake Easter serve as our 2 prevention education coordinators. And finally, you heard his name mentioned earlier, Chris Brunswick serves as our data and research analyst. And that is very important. They're all important, but to identify the issues and the gaps is really comes out of the data and the analysts, the analyzing of that data. The task force is about to bring aboard a 4th program coordinator here in the Midlands area. This staff continues to work together to create and support efforts throughout South Carolina to increase awareness and action in every corner of the state. Now, here's where we get into the data from this year. In 2025, the task force used 4 primary sources of data in this report. SLED, or the State Law Enforcement Division, Department of Social Services, or DSS, the South Carolina Department of Juvenile Justice, and state and federal court data. First, I would like to start with SLED. SLED continues to lead efforts in conducting human trafficking investigations on behalf of the governor and our agency in the Attorney General's office, while providing technical assistance and manpower to other law enforcement agencies. Lieutenant Jade Roy leads the human trafficking unit at SLED. Jade, raise your hand. I want people to see who you are. And serves as the chair of the law enforcement subcommittee of the state task force. In 2025, the Law Enforcement Subcommittee partnered with Fortis Tactical Systems to provide a 4 2-day advanced trainings for law enforcement officers and law enforcement victims advocates. SLED has been a leader in training and providing the lead and support on both state and federal cases here in South Carolina. Here are the numbers from SLED this year. In 2025, the SLED Human Trafficking Unit responded to 315 tips in 41 out of the 46 counties. 315 tips. Last year at this time, I announced 285, so 30 additional tips were reported this year. These cases involved 323 potential victims, of which 234 were minors. So of the 323 potential victims in the SLED numbers that were reported, potentially 72% of them were minors. I want to commend SLED on your dedication to working with these often very difficult cases. Mark Keel, the chief of SLED, my right arm in law enforcement, who I work very closely with, was not unable to be here today. I know he wanted to be, but he sent another dear friend of this organization, Major Frank O'Neill, who leads the Vice Narcotics, Alcohol, and Human Trafficking Unit, of course, along with Lieutenant Jade Roy. And I know that Frank is right here. Jade, where's Jade? Buried in the back. There you are. I didn't see you. Thank you, Jade. Thank you, Frank. I would like to also thank our sheriff's office, local law enforcement agencies, and federal law enforcement for your work on investigating these cases and for your efforts towards continued collaboration. I know there may be other sheriff's departments or local law enforcement agencies who are here, along with our federal partners, but thank you to those of you who are here. And I know that Solicitor Stumbo is our one solicitor who is representing the Solicitors Caucus. Now, the next area of data that I would like to read, we just covered SLED statistics, 2025 court data. Okay, in 2025, 32 defendants with 54 charges of human trafficking were brought in South Carolina state courts. So I'm just reported 32 defendants are in state courts this year. Last year at this time, that was 16. So we've doubled the number of defendants that have been reported by state and federal courts. The 54 charges last year was 20 charges. So we more than doubled the number of charges and doubled the number of defendants. And that's, again, because of everything that we're doing here today. The number of charges and defendants in the states is doubling for those very reasons. Half of the victims, actually more than half of the victims, minors. As of this report, there are 52 human trafficking defendants with 84 charges currently pending in South Carolina state courts. So currently pending, 52 defendants are pending in state courts, which is up from 37 last year. Currently pending 84 charges, up from 62. So again, the efforts of the state task force along with the regional task force, with all of our member and partner agencies, we're putting more of these folks on the books for prosecution and incarceration. The prosecution teams, including investigators and victim advocates, are working on these cases, but as we anticipated, as the education of the public and law enforcement takes root, it is resulting in the number of charges and defendants increasing. We will be focusing on the cases in the courts in 2026, continuing to work with our prosecution partners to understand the complexities and the methods for seeking justice for victims of these cases. Now, I do want to recognize local, state, and federal prosecutors. We have Attorney General Office prosecutors and Assistant United States attorneys and solicitors. So if you are currently one of those folks or have ever been one of those folks, raise your hand. Whether you're in our office or the U.S. Attorney's Office flanking us, they're sprinkled throughout here. Thank you. Thank you to them. Now, I would like to go to the Department of Juvenile Justice. DJJ identified 56 victims of human trafficking in their system this year. The majority were female, and they represent 21 different counties throughout South Carolina. It is only by screening and identifying these victims that they can receive the needed services. I want to thank DJJ Director Eden Hendrick and Human Trafficking Coordinator Robbie Croft for working with the task force and sharing these numbers. While we are still partners with Polaris, you all remember Polaris, their responsibilities and focus have changed over the last year. They used to manage the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Notably, they no longer provide the national numbers we have reported in the past, and they are no longer responsible for managing the hotline. We hope to be able to return to providing similar statistics as the hotline grows and changes under a different organization known as Compass Connections. Now I would like to shift to the third area, is Department of Social Services. I think that's the fourth area, excuse me. That is the fourth one. In 2025, the task force relationship strengthened with the DSS organization under the leadership under its new director, Dr. Tony Catone. We have been able to collaborate more on our direction forward and receive statistics for the full year. In 2025, under these statistics, 159 children were identified as victims of human trafficking. The victims ranged from birth to 18 years of age, with the oldest children being between 15 and 18 years of age. The oldest accounted for 108 of those 159, which means that 15 to 18 years old was 68% of the children identified in those numbers. While females make up the majority of the identified victims, race and geography did not play a significant role in who was being victimized. Again, females and children seem to be the two trends that are standing out. These numbers continue to emphasize the importance of our statewide efforts and our regional task forces in recognizing, but more importantly, educating to prevent the heinous crime from occurring. We will continue to aggressively attack the issues related to trafficking in South Carolina. Again, I want to begin the way I started by thanking everyone who was up here with me, thanking the organizations you represent, and thanking everyone who could not be here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank everyone, including law enforcement, prosecutors, healthcare providers, direct service providers, state subcommittees, regional task forces, and others who are working tirelessly to prevent this crime and meet the needs of victims and survivors in our state. And I want to close, and I say this in almost every press conference involving protecting and educating on the victim issue. If you are watching this press conference right now, and you or someone you know you believe to be a victim of human trafficking, look up here and see the number of people behind me, flanking me to my left and my right. This is a small fraction of the army of people who are out there waging a war on human trafficking, out there educating and advocating to get resources to local communities to serve survivors and victims of human trafficking who so desperately needed it. You are not alone. We have you. We got your back. They have your back. So with that, I will conclude this press conference. Happy to take any questions relevant to the task force or the annual report, and of course, we can also do some one-offs if you want to get some more information. I do want to say thank you to the media, because whether you know it or not, you're an honorary member of the task force, because if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, does it make a noise? You're helping us make the noise by being here today and by reporting this information so that we can educate our citizens in South Carolina. Any questions?
Attorney General, you sort of touched on this, but could you go into a little more detail? The numbers this year compared to last year, what are sort of your takeaways? How do you think your efforts have played into how the numbers this year?
So obviously, the numbers come from different sections. You know, you got DSS, DJJ, SLED, and then you have state and federal courts, okay? And so what we're seeing in the trends is children, minor children, seem to be standing out as a trend that's going up. Females, okay, they also seem to be a trend that we see going up. That is what all of these different types of data are telling us. Now, what I want to underscore, when you see the numbers going up, it is a bad thing that we're finding those, but it is a good thing that we're finding those too. And what I mean by that is, 13 years ago, no one was talking about human trafficking. 13 years ago, there was not a robust organization like the one that we have here today out there training across every sector of government, in the private sector and the nonprofit sector and the faith sector. I mean, literally, we are bringing people together to raise awareness, so people are now looking for it. And law enforcement and prosecutors are training for this. Judges are aware of how to move these cases. We've even done judicial trainings over the years. Healthcare providers, service providers, educators. I mean, everyone is coming together to raise awareness. So I use the analogy is, if we had no police officers on the highways of South Carolina, then all of a sudden we just put 1,000 law enforcement officers on the highways of South Carolina, we would see an upward trend of traffic tickets and traffic infractions. That doesn't mean that those traffic violations weren't happening before. It means we have more boots on the ground. We have more eyeballs out there looking for it. We have more people talking about it. And so you are seeing the trends go up, especially with minors and females. But to me, that just means that we're becoming more self-aware and we're more aggressively going after it. And that is a good thing. Did I adequately address your answer? If you want the specific numbers, I know that they are in this report, which you can download, and happy to have my team provide you. I know I was going fast earlier, but we can get you those numbers. But like I said, we are seeing that uptick.
Out of the 315 tips you got last year, how many led to arrests?
That is SLED's data. Do we have?
We did not have that data available. That would be something that we have to follow up on with the prosecution.
Each tip goes, that the SLED receives, goes into, I guess, a launched investigation. And I got Lieutenant Jade Roy and I've got Frank O'Neill here. But that investigation would either be, obviously they have to go look at the tip. The tip could be someone thought it could be human trafficking, and if they find out it was something else, or that it wasn't anything at all, or that it actually becomes a human trafficking case. And then that case would probably go to a local solicitor's office or the Attorney General's office, depending on what's going on. And so right now, I just don't have those numbers at the tip of my tongue, but.
I would say that's a bit more complex, and we'll be happy to get with you after.
Okay.
More in-depth conversation.
As it relates with the numbers, we can put you with SLED or the other, you know, with DSS or DJJ.
Do you have a direct message for people that are doing the human trafficking?
Yes, if you are engaging in human trafficking, we're coming for you, and we're not going to put you in the jail, we're going to put you under it, period. And if you are a victim of human trafficking or a survivor of human trafficking, we are here for you. We got your back. We have resources and an army of people ready to serve and support you in any way possible. But human trafficking is not being tolerated in South Carolina. And again, when I became Attorney General 15 years ago this week, there was no state task force. There was no human trafficking laws on the books. There was no daily conversations. People weren't talking about it because human trafficking was one of those exotic crimes that happens in a Hollywood movie. We just didn't talk about it. Like 30 years ago, we weren't talking about domestic violence. That was a private family affair. No, it's not. It's a societal discussion we need to be having. And so just like domestic violence, human trafficking has entered the everyday vernacular of everyday citizens of South Carolina, and that is a good thing. We need to be talking about it.
Either for yourself or Ms. Garvin coming in, are there any new initiatives that you have planned or things you're looking at doing this next year to perhaps improve on this past year?
There are always new initiatives, there are always new programs, because every time I talk to them, they got something cooking in the kitchen. I don't know if I'm allowed to get out in front of my skis. Monique, keep me between the ditches here.
Yeah. All of that information is available in our annual report in our executive summary, and we're happy to provide a copy to you after this press conference. Thank you.
Okay, what I would encourage you folks in the media to do is this. We have some folks up here. You have Representative Guffey, you have some elected officials, you saw people raising their hands, you've got some organizations that received awards. Interview them. I mean, I'm happy to talk to any of you about whatever you want to talk about, but interview them, because I want the people of South Carolina to get to know the faces and names of these organizations and what resources they provide, because the more they know about it, the better able these organizations and these individuals are going to be able to provide those resources and that support to people here in South Carolina. So grab one of them, do a one-off, and again, I want to thank you all for being here today. Folks, this concludes our 13th annual State Human Trafficking Press Conference, so thank you for participating.